Yeah. I mean, it's also possible, there are a lot of like weird ravines that go off. They just thought that was the trail and took that. There are pictures of them on the trail that, Steve and I were kind of talking about earlier. I was like, this picture actually creeps me out of Chris because it kind of looks like they're just walking through a dried up riverbed. That doesn't look like a trail at all to me. But maybe it is. And that's not something that, any of the investigators have brought up, is that like, oh, this obviously isn't the trail. Apparently that's what the trail looks like. So it'd be pretty easy to just, think this other offshoot was the trail and get lost. And before you know it, you realize, oh, it's, getting dark. The sun is setting. We have no idea where we are. Although in that instant, what do? You turn around and follow the trail you were just following back to the other trail and walk out that way. Or if you have to camp on the trail.
Seems like a wise idea.
I don't know why. So for me, I don't think it's possible that they just got lost.
You don't think it's possible they just got lost? So
no, I think that one of them had to have been injured.
One of them was injured?
At least, yeah, at least one of them.
See, I disagree with that.
Yeah?
When I looked at the map which is another one of the great infographics that somebody has put together, and there's this map that kind of plots out their course to the last point that we know about. And then, so if you follow that course north or northeast, this is the point that I was making earlier and we had talked about, is that you come to another river. And that river it's the Rio Changuinola. Mm-hmm. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Yeah.
Okay, well that's flowing downhill on the north side of that Continental Divide, that mountain ridge that we were talking about. Mm-hmm. Okay, well if they're lost, I can see them being confused and one trying to convince the other, no, listen, we need to follow this. This is totally going to take us home. And correct me if I'm wrong, but they only took a couple of bottles of water, is that right?
Yeah, but I guess the argument is those rivers would be kind of pure enough to...
I don't
obviously it's not ideal.
That.
You're probably going to get Giardia or something. But
Giardia or dysentery.
But you're going to drink it if
you're
you're
going to
lost.
drink it, and you're going to get something.
Yeah.
And that's going to make you sick and ill. Mm-hmm. So my personal belief is that they got sick. I don't think somebody fell and broke a bone. I think they both got ill. And usually those kind of things, they tear up your guts and you can't walk.
We're talking like a couple days later, like they got lost and then got ill. Because Giardia takes a while. It's not like you drink it and suddenly it's like food poisoning. 2 hours later you're vomiting. It takes a while to get hold in there.
Well, it takes a day or two, but if you're lost for a day or two, then you're incapacitated and you're stuck.
Yeah.
And then dehydration sets in. No matter how much you drink out of the river that you're laying next to, you're gonna be dehydrated. And I think that one of them did have the presence of mind, as we know by the on again, off again scenario. Mm-hmm. But personally, as I looked at the photos of what we could see from the camera it's the 8th day, correct?
No, it's the 7th day. It's April 8th, the 7th day.
These are all the black photos.
Yeah.
When I looked at, because I pulled up the user manual on their camera, I wanted to know, what does it take to use this thing? Mm-hmm. It's a simple point and click. It's got the little back and forth spring-loaded dial on the front to turn it on and off. Mm-hmm. And then it's just a really simple push to turn on or to take a photo. So I can see either A, somebody having spasms or a seizure of some kind and just essentially holding down, repeatedly squeezing the button, consciously or unconsciously, or if they're already deceased at that point and it's in their hand and there's some kind of critter rustling around and checking them out because they're a corpse and that means that they're fair game. Continually hitting that, and that's why we're not seeing anything, because it's pointed up or it's rolled into one of them's the hair of, is it Chris? Chris's hair.
So the problem with that theory is that the camera was found neatly packed in the backpack.
Oh, the camera was back in the backpack.
Yeah, everything was in the backpack.
Oh,
so it wasn't like somebody just passed out. It wasn't like a seizure. It was... And, people have said, like, oh, well, maybe it was, like, floating down the river and, like, hitting stuff, and that was setting it off. But, then it would have had
It would have
flat, like it
photographed
would have been like
something.
super. You know, when you accidentally take a picture of like the inside of your hand, the flash is like they would have been white pictures. They wouldn't have been black pictures.
Correct.
And you wouldn't have had the hair.
And also I'm
The
assuming
hair was dry.
Yeah, it was, and I'm assuming this is not a watertight camera.
No.
So once it goes into the river, you can't use the flash anymore.
Yeah.
Or you can't take pictures anymore.
Yeah.
So they've got. I'm kind of thinking that they probably there was a helicopter or some such thing flying overhead, and they were just trying to signal it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. You know, again, the other problems I have with that are the pictures of, you know, what look like different areas taken on that same night. The hair, the like fairly purposeful picture of whatever they've created on the rock there. And
I'm not gonna. Again, we don't have to go into it at great length, but I don't know that they're different areas. I could see those pictures being taken from pointing one direction, turning 90 degrees, and taking another.
Sure.
So when you say a different area, I'm just trying to get the context of it's not as if they roamed 100 yards, that they were stuck on the riverbank, and I called out sickness, is because I don't know if we've clarified this yet, but everything besides the backpack, every single thing was downstream.
well, the backpack was downstream too.
Everything, yeah,
Everything's
all of it was
downstream. I think it's pretty well
Yeah.
accepted that a flash flood probably washed their stuff down.
It could be that that's what finally did them in too. I mean, because the thing about it is if you're out there in rough wilderness area, the best thing to do is to find a river and follow it down.
Yeah.
And so they were probably doing that. They were probably following this river, and they might have even thought they were on the other side of the Continental Divide. Although how they could have jumped to that conclusion is beyond me. But maybe they realized there's no way we're going to get back to the top, and we'll just follow this until it comes to a village.
I guess.
And then the flash flood comes along, and well, that's kind of it for them.
If you look at the pictures of that area, there are a lot of mountains, so it's possible that they, you know, crested another one and thought it was the same one, and you know they turned around in the. But you know, the other thing is there are a lot of like old huts. The area that they were kind of in, especially the area their remains were found in, is like grazing area, or farmers walk through it. Obviously, farmers have found most of this stuff. Locals have found most of this stuff. So it's not as though they were in an unpopulated area. I mean, it wasn't like a city, obviously, but like certainly in the time of 10 days, people were like walking through that area. So you know, I have no good scope of how one could be so thoroughly lost with so many people looking for you. They would have had to have been mobile.
The jungle's a big place.
It is.
It absorbs sound quite well.
That's true too. So
but people get lost. This is not the first time this kind of thing has happened. I just got to say, don't go out in the woods without a compass and some food and water and all kinds of other stuff.
And like emergency stuff. You know, really honestly, the best advice I could give anybody is they're like 50 cents, those survival whistles. And those suckers are loud.
Yeah, so those things are good. A flare gun, you can get actually small flare guns. They're not like the big steel ones that they carry on ships. You can get small little flare guns and stuff like that. That's also
just take some survival stuff with you.
Take
out.
survival stuff. Yeah.
Or tip number 1 is don't go into a remote area you don't know of on your own.
Especially if you've hired a guide for the next day.
That's what perplexes me so much about this, is why they decided, because I mean technically that trail does go on for hundreds and hundreds of kilometers. You know, through the jungle, but you don't know what you're doing. Why would you go, what the hell? Let's just give it a shot.
That's, maybe they thought
that's what I don't understand.
I agree.
I don't get it either. That's.
But at 21, I might have made that decision.
True that, but maybe they thought, we got nothing else going on. This is the trail around here. Let's just go do a couple of miles of it and then come back, and then we'll go do the major trek tomorrow. And they wind up like, and I've done this before. You go out in the woods, and it's like, we're just going to go a couple of miles, and then you get out there, and it's like, no, let's go another mile, Oh, wait, let's go another mile. You know, I mean, come on, why not? And you wind up going a lot further than you originally planned on going.
It's just really unfortunate.
Oh, it is.
The whole situation.
And it's really sad, too, that they lasted so long that they were out there, I'm sure, terrified and
Yeah,
hungry
so
and thirsty.
if you follow the timeline, you may or may not have realized that their parents went out with the search parties, which means that their parents could have been within a mile of them while they were still alive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's scary to me. You know, it's not like
It's tragic.
startling. Yeah, it is. It's tragic. Tragic is definitely the word. And also, yeah, I don't know. It's just,
I'm sure the parents wonder about that all the time.
they do. I watched this
I
documentary.
feel so sad for them.
It's all in Dutch, so I didn't understand it. But I did watch this documentary of a news crew from the Netherlands came with the family and filmed them walking the trail. And it's just it's like pretty hard to watch. You don't understand what they're talking about, and they seem like in fine spirits, but it's like just to know, you know, they have this moment where they pause and they're at this like waterfall, and they both just kind of stand there and they say, well, this is the last known place of our daughter, you know, and they show this picture, and it's the picture of her like standing by a waterfall. You know, it's just that moment of like, oh man.
Yeah, those kind of emotions are inherent. We all understand it, even if we don't understand the language.
Yeah, so that's a fun story for this week. Do you guys have any other theories you want to talk about?
No, I really am done.
Yeah, I don't have much to contribute on this one, really. I just think that,
Yeah.
they got lost and they got turned around and they started doing the wrong things. That's what happens when you get lost. Is you get this idea in your head that, oh, well, you know, this is the way to go, and you can't get that fixation out of your head. I've been there. I mean, I've been lost.
Yeah.
I've been lost in the woods. And,
Totally.
And you make and just mistakes compile, pile on top of mistakes, and next thing you know, you're really lost.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what happened to them, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
It's really too bad they couldn't find a tree high enough to shinny up to get cell coverage,
Yeah.
or a mountain high enough to get up on top of.
Yeah, I
and
agree.
Connect with a phone call. That would have been good.
There you go. So the infographics that we've been talking about, as well as some links, will be on our website, thinkingsidewayspodcast.com. You are probably not listening to us there. You're probably listening to us on iTunes. I think that's like where most of our traffic comes from these days.
A good chunk.
If you're on iTunes, leave us a comment and a rating, which, you know, you guys are doing pretty good at, I guess. It's how people find us. Other than Reddit, it's how
They've
people
been
find
doing
us.
awesome.
So
We've
you
been
guys,
getting a lot of stuff on
yeah,
there.
so thank you. You may be trying to stream us on Stitcher. We're, again, working on the...
Trying, yeah, that's the operative word here.
Trying real hard to work with them on that. We've got some engineers on it, I promise. You might be friends with us on Facebook. You might have liked our page. If you haven't, feel free to take a moment to do that. You may or may not follow us on Twitter. If you don't, that's okay. I don't have a Twitter, so I guess it's okay. But you should follow us if you have a Twitter. We
Oh, yeah.
every once in a while tweet something, usually when somebody's tweeted at us already.
It's usually our MO.
Usually it. And if you want to talk about this case with any of us, or you have suggestions or anything like that, please feel free to send us an email, thinkingsidewayspodcast@gmail.com. With that, I think we're going to get out of here. You guys are both just like wide-eyed and like, I don't want to think about life anymore.
No.
Yeah, no, this is a rough story.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very sad. Yeah.
We're gonna have to do something completely weird next week.
Yeah.
We've done enough of these lately.
I agree.
I need
Right,
something
yeah.
completely different than people disappearing.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's my turn next week, so I'll come up with something like that. And no more disappearances for a while.
Can it
Yeah.
involve clowns?
No,
No,
nothing
probably
scarier.
not. It might involve squirrels.
I'm
but
okay with that.
Yeah, squirrels
I
are
love
cool.
squirrels.
They're
That's
cool.
totally awesome.
They're cool. But anyway, if there's one lesson I'm taking away from this, is stay the hell out of Panama.
Yeah.
And also, it's better not to leave the house at all.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
I think we can agree on that.
Bye, guys.
All right.
Bye, everybody.
So long for this week. Thinking Sideways is not brought to you by Turkeys with Mohawks. No, instead, it is brought to you by Netflix's new 4-part docuseries, Evil Genius. This is the story of Brian Douglas Wells, an American pizza delivery man who was killed by a remotely controlled bomb that had been fastened to his neck under coercion from the maker of the bomb. From the studio that brought you Making a Murderer comes a twisting, turning bank heist that will shed light on the true story of the pizza bomber and the person who might have gotten away with masterminding the entire thing. The docuseries Evil Genius is streaming now only on Netflix. Watch it today. So it's almost time, but we're expecting about another 300 people to show up. So, so we might hold off for an extra minute or two. See, there you go.
There they are.
Yeah. Hey.
Thanks.
You guys know Robin from The Trail Went Cold? Say hi, everybody. Yeah. Oh, looks like they turned my mic on.
Did they?
Whatever I said, I'm sorry.
Wait.
It says here in the script, witty banter. Okay. See, right
It does.
It actually does.
It does.
It does, yeah.
It says intro ourselves, period, witty banter,
Yeah.
period.
Winty?
Yeah,
Yeah.
winty,
Hi.
like cold.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know.
All right, for those of you who weren't here a few minutes ago, I'm going to show off one more time. I know. Looks like a UFO, but it's actually
Don't look into the light. He's hypnotizing
It's
you.
a sombrero.
Sombrero.
Yeah, I know. Actually, all I had to do was tell her my sad story, and she gave it to me. Wasn't that sweet? Yeah, she was going to charge me, but she just gave it to me.
So this is the point where you turn your ringtones off.
Yeah, please.
Thank you.
Yeah,
For the
that would be
reminder.
good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That was planned. By the
Hang
way.
on.
Okay, it's 3:30.
Oh, crap.
Should we do this or should we just go to the bar?
I mean,
I guess.
All right.
We said we'd do it.
Okay.
First off, how y'all doing? Yeah?
Yeah?
Having fun at CrimeCon? Yeah?
and sorry, we got this recording thing situated.
I believe so.
It's all figured out?
Theoretically.
Okay. All right.
Great.
This could be the lost episode. Let's hope not.
We did that one already. It was not.
Yeah, by the way, excuse my voice. It cuts out a little bit because I was at Pew's last night, and the decibel level was like about 300 in there, and so I had to be screaming at people when I was talking to them. And I think I kind of damaged my vocal cords a little bit. So
He was actually just screaming at people.
Yeah.
It had nothing to do with the
Right
music
up in
or
there.
the talking.
I was screaming at passing
was weird.
cars, but yeah.
Okay, well, I guess it's my job to get this thing started.
Okay.
Get going.
We're relying on you.
All right. So you guys know maybe from last year, maybe from listening to us, that we're recording this. So sorry. So hello and welcome to CrimeCon 2018.
Hi, everybody.
We are Thinking Sideways, the podcast, and we're going to do a show for you tonight. We have a mystery. But first, I'm Devin.
I'm Joe.
And I'm Steve.
So, hi. Perfect.
Sounds like there's like 12 times the amount of
Yeah.
people in here.
Actually, let's do this again, and I'm going to run through the crowd with the microphone.
Let's not.
Yeah?
We're not doing that. We're not doing that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay.
What do you guys want to talk about tonight?
Let's see. Golden State Killer?
No.
Yeah, no.
Why not?
Saul.
Yeah, let's
It is?
solve DNA or something,
I
don't
don't go
know
on
about this.
social media, so I don't know.
I don't know about this DNA stuff. I was reading this article that we share like 98% of our DNA with frogs. So it's like,
Could have just been a frog.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, right. So
frog
I'm not
people.
totally convinced about that one yet.
Yeah. Okay, well,
So
just
we had to
kidding.
scratch up another one.
Yeah, we did. Maybe an axe murder?
Yeah. And
Found
what's
a
cool
pig.
about this one is this happened really close to where we're sitting right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's get started.
Okay.
All right.
Sound good? All right, we're going to talk about the axe murder of the Aid family in March 24 of 1897. Our story takes place here in Tennessee, as we just mentioned. At the time, the area was called Germantown because, as you might have guessed, there are a lot of immigrants. And they had been living in the area for about 20 years at the time that our story takes place. Well, I mean, Jacob and Pauline had. I should introduce you to the family. Jacob and Pauline. Jacob was the patriarch of the family. He was 60 years old at the time. His wife, Pauline, was 50 years old. Also involved were two children, a daughter named Lizzie, who was 20, and a son named Henry, who was 13. Worth mentioning, they weren't just like super old parents.
Yeah, they were.
For the times.
Weird.
They also had 3 adult children, but they had moved out by then. Lucky them. And that's what we call by foreshadowing. Jacob and Pauline owned quite a large farm in what was then called Paradise Ridge, but is now called Joeltown, which I believe is like 16 miles from where we are here. I don't know if there are any.
North?
It's just
I
the
think
north
to the
of
north,
here,
yeah.
Right? Are you guys from? Is anybody from Tennessee?
There you go.
Cool.
Well, there we go.
Yeah.
So you know where Joeltown is?
Yeah. So the people that were nodding
Okay,
got it.
Joelton.
Jolton?
Sorry.
All right.
Yeah.
Their farm, it said, was at least 400 acres, which is 0.6 square miles or 1.6 square kilometers, which is not nothing, I guess. I don't know acres, I'm sorry. As you do with farms, not only was there a farmhouse, but also lots of outbuildings like barns, etc., and at least one smokehouse. But to be fair, the barn is actually speculation because there are very little details about this story other than the fact that there were 5 rooms in the farmhouse and there was a smokehouse. That's all we really know.
But there had to be a barn because you
Right.
have to store your tools somewhere.
Right?
Right.
And probably a tool shed.
Yeah.
Or 3.
Here's the thing with farming. You probably know. It can be much more lucrative for some people than others, and the Aids were considered very wealthy by their peer farmers. It's unclear to me if this is true or not. We've talked a lot about this. The Aids might have just been very generous with their money because Jacob would loan money to any farmers in the area that maybe needed some. But he was also pretty litigious, which is the correct use of that word this time, thank you. Reporting is that just days before the thing that you're about to learn about, Jacob had been in court because somebody had stolen one of his hogs and he was suing them.
That's
over
not
that.
cool.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have the Aid family. We have Jacob, Pauline, Lizzie, and Henry. Also involved in what you're about to learn out is Rosa, who is a 10-year-old neighbor who was sleeping over, her dad lived in the area, but it's unclear why she was sleeping at the house at the time. Her last name is reported 100% differently every single place you read it, so it could be Morier, Mortier, Murier, Morierier,
yeah.
or like Moriarty or something. I added
Sherlock
that
Holmes.
last one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not true. Yeah. Joe?
Okay, my turn. So now that Devin's done the hard work of introducing all of our characters, I get
The
to talk
boring
about
work.
the crime.
Yeah.
This is the fun part. This is the part I love. So, by the way, the AIDS family, in case you're wondering, the AID family, A-D-E, not A-I-D, just in case you're curious. I keep wanting to call them like live, cool band, you know. I mean, no, so it's A-D-E, so none of that applies. So, the crime. So, nobody actually saw the crime, well, except for the guy who committed it, of course. But around 9:30 that night, it was dark. Of course, it was March in Tennessee. Their closest neighbor was about a half mile away and saw flames coming from their home, and so rode over on his horse to check it out. This guy's name was Justice Simpson. Though by some accounts his name was Squire Simpson. I think it was Justice. Though, keep it simple, we're going to call him Justin, as always.
Oh, yep.
Yeah, I
Justin
know.
did it.
Yep, as always. So when Justin got there, the whole house was already up in flames, and he didn't see the family anywhere. So all he could think of do was go to the smokehouse and pull all the meat out of the smokehouse. And that's what he said afterwards. You know, he's like, oh, you know, the meat was going to be destroyed, so I thought I would save the meat.
I think he was just trying to get some free meat.
I think that's
it was
what
barbecue
it was.
time.
Yeah, the family's going up in flames. I'm going to grab some free stuff. We don't know. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Yeah. So he starts pulling meat out of the smokehouse while yelling for the family. He was thinking that maybe they were already up in flames, or else they'd escaped the house and they were, you know, lurking somewhere, maybe on the other side of the house or something. He wasn't sure, but he was moving the meat, and and then. According to one version of this story, while our friend Justin was there moving the meat out of the smokehouse.
Why do you keep saying it that way?
Yeah, moving the meat.
Yeah,
Sorry.
it's very uncomfortable.
Okay. Okay. Let me think here. All right. I just won't talk about that anymore. Anyway, so he was doing his thing, and apparently an exterior wall of the house falls down. And it just collapses, and he was able to see inside the burning house. And so he saw the dead bodies in there, although to him they looked like just big bumps of clothing. He wasn't sure. So he did what any of us would do when you're, you know, like faced with a huge burning house. You know, he went and got a potato fork, which is like a pitchfork, but the tines had been bent,
So you can dig up potatoes?
Yeah. And so he grabs one of those and ties a long pole to it and goes and starts poking at those big bundles.
Sure.
I'm not sure I would do that, but that's what he did. And pokes at him a bit and then kind of hooks them and pulls them out of the house, and turns out they were corpses. Yeah, I know. They're dead bodies. Not just dead bodies, but headless bodies. I know. That makes it even better, doesn't it? Where am I at here? And
You're ruining Steve's part is what you're doing.
Sorry, I'm stomping all over his stuff. But
I know.
I'm not so sure about this because unless the guy was like a Terminator from the future, how do you do this? Because house fires are like what, like 900 degrees, right? So I'm wondering if perhaps because it turns out a rainstorm kicked up that night, kind of doused the flames a bit. So it might be that Justin waited until after things had kind of died down a little bit before he started poking around in there and pulling bodies out of the wreckage of the house.
That's the less heroic version, right?
That is, I would call it the less heroic version. Yeah. But whatever he did, I mean, long story short, they did find 4 headless bodies, although some reports say 2. I like 4 better myself.
You're
so
just
go
like
4.
literally all of this is Steve.
Yeah, sorry.
You're taking all of the good
Can
parts
I
from
just start?
Steve.
Well, this is the problem, is I sort of stare at the script, but I'm not really seeing it. I'm
Yeah.
just like, going off memory. So.
Sorry,
so
Steve.
I am going to turn it over to Steve, although he doesn't have anything to talk about.
All right, theories. Kidding.
Go ahead.
So obviously, no matter whether it was 2 bodies or it was 4 bodies, Justin is freaked out. So he runs away, and he goes and he gets a neighbor and says, "Hey, I found these dead bodies. What do we do?" They then go and get Rosa's dad, he must have been just a couple of miles away, and then they all go back to the property and mill about. I don't know what they were doing while they were waiting there. Eventually, the sheriff would show up, and he would start looking around. When they pulled the bodies out, they noticed that it was the Aid family only, the ones that Justin pulled out. But when the sheriff starts looking around, he finds Rosa's body. And she's a little bit different than the other because she's not as burned as badly as everybody else.
He's not as headless either.
Right.
Yeah.
She is missing some
All of the
bits,
good
though.
parts.
She is missing a hand, and it appears that she is missing the back of her head, as if somebody took a swing at her and didn't get the whole thing. Yeah, which is not exactly the nicest thing in the world.
And the question that I always ask on the times that we've rehearsed this and it's gone well before
No, we have not rehearsed this, as you can tell.
is always why would her body be less burned than all the other ones?
Well, and so there's a lot of ideas of why that might be. The general theory is that she must have tried to get away, and maybe she was caught outside of the house, and then once the killer had killed her, tossed her back into the building with the intention of her burning up with everybody else. But she was in an area of the house that maybe didn't burn as much, and therefore she was spared the flames. But it's hard to say because, as Devin said, there's weird reporting on this story and it changes all over the place. There are places that said that she did have her hand. There's also places that say that her body was found in a crouching position, which when we talked about it, with her hands over her head, kind
Seems
of, like
pretty
you're going to
impossible,
protect
right?
yourself.
Like for a dead body to be just like crouching, think it'd fall over?
And the only thing that we can come up with is maybe she was in the corner of a room, which is
Or a
even
closet.
scarier when you think about it, because I don't want to think about going that way. So the original working theory was this. Someone must have come to the house around 8 o'clock that night. They killed Jacob first, and then chased the rest of the family into the house and would corner them in the parlor where they would be murdered. And it is believed that it is at this point, while the Aid family was being killed in the parlor, if Rosa had tried to get away, that's when she would have done it. There was speculation that she had tried to go out a window, which, since most of the house was burned down, I don't
know where they came up with that.
Yeah, that part doesn't make a lot of sense.
No.
But as with all of the reporting, a lot of things don't make sense.
Pause for a drink.
Yeah.
Pause for a drink.
Yes.
Pause for drink.
I get dry mouth. If you ever notice, it's a bad thing. Don't do it. See, where the heck were we? Oh, okay, yeah. So we talked about the fact the house had partially burned and then the fire had been put out.
Yeah.
Of course, when they get those bodies, the heads are missing, and people have said, well, where could the heads have gone? It's likely that they did not burn up in the fire, because if the bodies didn't burn up, heads are very moist. They're not going to burn up very easy. They don't explode in flames like
They
that.
don't explode? Damn it.
No, this is not the zombie movie. So that does not happen. And so it's thought at this point that our killer must have packed away these two or full intact heads, which it's kind of got to be a lot of weight to carry. How much does a head
No,
weigh?
it's 10 pounds.
10 pounds.
How do you know that?
Devin knows this stuff.
Actually, funny story. I Googled it. And actually, when I Googled it, I was doing something else, and so I accidentally Googled how much does a human head cost?
And you can? There's a price.
85 million, it turns
Yeah.
out. Yeah.
Shrunken or full size?
Full size.
Okay.
And that's for like the whole transplant. I couldn't find what it just
These are
cost
transplants.
on the market.
Oh. Those don't count.
If you want just a decorative
It's
head,
probably better
they're available
that
on
there's
eBay
not
for a lot
good.
cheaper. Yeah.
So back to the investigation. So really there are no clues as to what happened to the family. Authorities would search around. They would arrest two black men who lived in Ashland City, which is apparently 10 miles away. But their confessions would be found to not be exactly right and probably were coerced. And we'll talk about that in a little bit in theories.
Surprise.
Then two other men that were local men were charged with the crime. They were sent to trial. They were acquitted because there's no evidence. So there was nothing to convict them with. So, we've kind of got a perfect crime here because, well, wait, there is one witness. So we've been holding back on you. There is one single witness.
It's a very good witness.
It was the family's German Shepherd. Yes, believe it or not, they had a dog. The dog saw it all, told the sheriff what had happened.
Yeah.
No, seriously.
No, seriously,
The
the
sheriff said this.
The sheriff used the dog
Yeah.
as his secret witness.
Yeah.
I don't, it's the late 1890s. I guess it was the Wild West of investigations. My best guess here is that his plan was to take the dog all around town, and whoever the dog barked at must have been guilty.
So a lot.
Because it turns out that dog was a barker.
Did you?
So yeah, that's the really weird part about the story. So really, no witnesses, perfect crime.
Yeah, the reason I think we missed this, one of the reasons that most of the evidence was gone because of that rainstorm, it washed away most of the blood evidence. There were no footprints, anything like that, because it was a really heavy rainstorm.
Not to mention the fire.
Right, the fire
probably
didn't
played a role.
fire
help
do that
anything.
too.
Yeah. So it was kind of perfect, actually, it turned out.
Yeah.
Not a bad crime. Yeah.
All right.
I
Well.
would say perfect crime, but okay.
Okay. It's time for theories. But first, let's take a break. A bomb is an explosive weapon that uses the exothermic reaction of an explosive material to provide an extremely sudden and violent release of energy. Detonations inflict damage principally through transmitted mechanical stress, the impact and penetration of pressure-driven projectiles, pressure damage, and explosion-generated effects. Bombs can be defined as vessels containing a reactive material, a baby with a full belly, someone cute who really knows how to wear those shorts, and a large greasy meal that'll definitely sit in the pit of your stomach all day long. Well, if you want to hear about the first kind of bomb, we've got the show for you. It's Evil Genius. Evil Genius tells the story of Brian Douglas Wells, an American pizza delivery man who was killed by a remotely controlled bomb fastened to his neck, under coercion from the maker of the bomb. In 2003, Wells was apprehended by police for robbing a bank while the bomb was locked to his neck. Shortly thereafter, the bomb detonated and it killed him instantly. After years of mishandled investigations, Evil Genius will shed light on the true story of the pizza bomber and the person who might have gotten away with masterminding the whole thing. From the studio that brought you Making a Murder and The Keepers comes a twisting, turning bank heist that leaves a trail of bodies and one big question. Who was the evil genius behind it? The 4-part docuseries Evil Genius is streaming now only on Netflix. Because it's the bomb. And we're back. Okay, so theory number one, you get to hear me continue to prattle on because I have theory number one, so lucky you. The first theory is that it was robbery. as we've established before, the Aid family was well off, or at least generous to the folks that lived in the area. And it was not an unknown fact that they actually kept a lot of money in the house. Turns out that they were known to keep several $100s at any one time in their home. If you look at what $100 is worth in the late 1890s to today, it's somewhere in the range of about $2,700. So you're looking at $5,000, $7,500, $10,000. It's kind of, I don't think that's enough money for me to want to murder somebody.
Especially a whole family, but
I don't know. People have different standards, though. But it wouldn't quite meet my standard for butchering an entire family.
What?
But,
just so I'm warned.
What is it? Yeah.
Just so we're ready.
It's kind of a moving target. It depends on my mood.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Okay, so there were the two gentlemen from Ashland City that were originally brought in for the crime, and they had confessed. The reason that their confessions that they didn't get charged with these crimes is their confession was that they went in and they did this whole thing so that they could rob the family and get all the money they had. That fell apart because when they started digging through the remains of the home, they found the money. Turns out that they had a roll of $100 in a tin. Joe, what was it? What kind of?
I heard it was an oyster can. So they stuck a roll. Pardon me. Sorry.
It's like a normal podcast.
Yeah. No, I heard it was an
Actually
oyster can. They just stuffed a roll in an oyster can and put it in the pantry or something. Although the thing about it is the original suspects maybe did do it because they find a stash of semi-burned bills and say, well, they said they found the money. Obviously, they didn't.